Steve, Raduk, well done.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope we are doing well. I hope we are all safe and have had a good week. So, one person can kindly unmute their mic and just tell me I'm audible.
You are audible.
Thank you. So, welcome to another job mentorship and job matching session. Today's topic is on IT risk and compliance, which is something I think we've encountered before in terms of speaking about risk. We had a speaker who came in and talked about risk. Who we have today is a professional who works uh, in the domain of IT risk and compliance. He's also a data protection officer at He's also a data protection officer at Serena Hotels. So he has an in-depth knowledge of what he does and what IT risk and compliance entails, and how you can translate the skills that you have here or that you're learning in Cyber Shuja into applicable skills in the job market. So with us is Kelvin Saitoti. I'll go ahead and give the floor to Kelvin. Kelvin, are you on the call?
Yes, Hope. I'm on the
No.
call.
Okay.
Yep.
So, karibu sana Kelvin. Welcome to
Thank you.
Cyber Shujaa mentorship session, and feel free.
Thank you so much, Hope, for allowing me to take the team, or rather the community, through this um, topic. I think I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes.
Yeah, so just to turn on my camera for identity. I'm Kelvin Saitoti, currently working with Serena Hotel as IT risk and compliance. However, as we go through the presentation, I'll just go through my profile. So because of bandwidth utilization, kindly allow me to just switch off my camera, then we can just start. So that's it. I will share my screen. Hope just confirm that you are able to see my screen.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so once again, good evening. And today I'll be your host, Kelvin Saitoti Simiyu, just to take you through IT risk and compliance. Basically for professionals, I think all of us are professional in one area or another, but I think we are talking at the end of the day to one thing that is empowering why we are here, and that is the technology element. I think it cut across various sectors, and uh, most organizations have technology, and for one reason or another, technology has come and it has been adopted uh, in one way or another. So today, as Hope has mentioned, we will just try to look at how do we sit with this um, necessary connectivity to empower businesses in various ways. So I will look at it from a professional perspective, what IT risk is, what compliance is. And as we progress, now we will be able to see how do organizations start hiring for this type of professionals. And part of the challenges each and every day that we as IT professionals, we are able to look. And also just try to also bring you into speed of, how does cybersecurity comes into this element today, and how does your career journey will be able to align into risk and compliance. So it's a critical component for any organization. And today, as long as an organization has internal processes, it has people, it has technology, definitely, for sure, it has a risk component around it. So and we just try to look at how effectively do we try to manage this IT risk. How do we ensure compliance? how do we use frameworks to do our own assessments or to do assessment for organizations, and how will they even help you and to be able to dive into the industry and use these frameworks to be able to conduct your assessments. So I think when you look at this picture, this is kind of maybe majority of us are. I am into cybersecurity. So what? There are so many domains when it talks to cybersecurity. There is pen test, there is application pen test, there is web pen test. When it comes to IT risks, there are so many cybersecurity frameworks, and all of them are talking to cybersecurity. When you look at the business talk of information security. Us, the professional, red team, offensive, defensive, we are talk of cybersecurity. So we actually taking the same thing, but like they always say, walk in and it's never out because it's so exciting. So Kelvin Saitoti, I have 10 years of experience. I also have a master's in cybersecurity from MIT. CND, CH, CompTIA pen test, all those certifications. But at the end of the day, it is the objectiveness is how will you remain relevant in the market? How will you remain relevant because of the skills you're building? So certifications are not just there to tick box, but to help you build those particular skills that is required. So in IT risk and compliance and a data protection officer, I've also played some critical roles in implementing risk management strategies, help organization do compliance. I also do cybersecurity pen test. I do trainings, and I also do mentorship. That's why we are here. So those are my contacts. You can reach me on LinkedIn and even through a phone call. That's fine. So how do I want to bring this element is just an understanding of IT risk, IT compliance, then we'll be able to see how can it can it help you to be able to achieve the current career journey that you're able to pick at the end of the day. So I will just look at IT risk, and from the definition of it, it's just risk is any potential threat to a data, an asset, or an operation. So in this case, we have technologies, and these technologies, in our language, we say that this particular router has a certain port 23 that transmit traffic in a plain text. So in that case, we have a necessity of a device in the network. However, that particular device can actually become a threat. So this will just help us. How do I identify that? At the back of our mind, we know that this is exactly what the risk is, but how do we communicate this to the business? So what are the type of the risk that you will be able to encounter? And I'm sure you have been able to encounter different type of risk. But now when it comes to you being an IT risk analyst, being a GRC risk analyst, you need to translate that into a business language. You need to translate that to something called an enterprise resource risk management framework that each and every organization is required to be able to build. So what does that say? You have to make sure that you are able to categorize your risks. And, a cyber risk can be a security risk. It can be an operational risk. It can be a reputational risk. But how do you know that? It's because of the impact it has to the business. And you will be able to know that. So the importance of managing the IT risk is to make sure that there is effective, is to make sure that we have data security. Because when you go to do a PT, let's say, for example, you have been hired, the organization has an objective, a scope as to what they want to achieve out of that vulnerability assessment. So we do that. Why? Because we need to ensure that there's data security. We need to ensure that organizations have regulatory compliance. We need to ensure that there is business continuity. Because if today you have a DDoS, so how are you going to operate your business? Yet you are an e-commerce. So you have been hired as an IT risk to go and perform a certain test. So there is always a scope to that. And at the end of the day is we have the integration of security, we have integration of technology, and we have an integration of security policies. Each and every organization has a technology. Each and every organization has an element of policy that is driving that particular technology. So at the end of the day, we must make sure that both are working together. And our role is to come and identify this particular risk as we continue to support the business, because we are here because we need a paycheck. And if the business will be able to be affected, then how are we going to get that paycheck? So you need to transform your mind from an offensive mindset, and at the back of your mind has a business objective. And that is why we shall be able to have a digression of moving from offensive to a business objective. And at the end of the day, for each and every IT risk taxonomy, it can be regulatory risk, it can be cyber risk, there is an element of compliance that we are trying to achieve. And these are rules and regulations that are usually set by industry. Let's say, for example, here in Kenya, we have CBK. CBK is it's a regulator for banks. We have SASTRA for SACCOs. We have Ministry of Health for hospitals. And behind them, there are things that we have to do to make sure that we operate within the threshold of the law that is accepted. And when you're going to perform that particular assessment or a risk audit or an IT audit, there is a compliance element that you need to have at your back of your mind. So what do I need to achieve out of this? What does the organization need to achieve out of this particular IT risk? IT risk assessment out of this pen test. That should be your objective, because it also helps you, even as you grow in your career, you understand what are the laws regulating this particular framework, what are the laws regulating this particular space, because you can't just wake up and because you just finished up your CH and you want to break each and every network. There is a compliance behind that, and it can actually get you into problems. Same to businesses. If businesses are not compliant to data protection today, and let's say, for example, a certain server that is holding people's information has been exposed, if the personal identifiable information has been exposed, then ODBC will come after this organization. Hey, you need to pay this fine. So there is always a compliance behind it. And a compliance, like we say, is just an internal policy. In terms of regulatory requirements, these are the laws that governs. We have just the other day, there's a bill that we wanted to pass for ICT. I think you have seen it going around. Those are laws that are coming. And how are they going to affect us, even as professionals? So those are the things that we need to look at. And, what are the importance of this compliance? It's just to highlight, the element of us to be able to perform, to make sure that there is the element of data integrity, there is element of organizational reputation, there is an element of us to be able to even be trusted with our customers. So we as professionals, we need to have something at the back of your mind that there is something we are taking to the community. So as you are aligning your career, think which area are you going into? If it is, web applications, if it is, code review and all that, it is because there is a certain compliance we want to make. That is why we have governance, risk, and compliance. Why do we feel like IT risk is important? This is just to bring into your mind that something you're doing will be valuable for any organization. It can't be that you finish up your program and the cyber shuja, you're just done with that program. So how will it impact businesses? And these are the things that we are being taught in class. Issue to do with identification. The first steps, in each and every risk management is, what are the potential risks that we can be able to identify. And during the program, we have been told how to act offensively or either defensively. Then in that case, you are going to sit in an organization and you will be tasked to be able to identify those attacks before the bad guys are able to identify those attacks. So the question is, how are you building your skill set to be able to make sure that you can be able to identify before the bad guys are able to do that? How do we perform our own assessment in terms of you have been given a scope that you are supposed to do a vulnerability test, a vulnerability assessment and penetration testing to this organization. So how are you going to approach that particular scope? The organization tells you that this is either we want it white box, we want it black box. So how are we going to do that? What are the key risks that we need to prioritize? From a professional point of view, how are you going to advise the business that, hey, we need to make sure that we have a firewall that has a proper rule configuration, not just a firewall, and why that firewall is even important? Or do you even require a firewall in first place? What type of firewall are you going to do? You really need to find yourself in a place where you can be able to advise the business from the element of assessing the environment. How are you going to help the businesses to mitigate these risks? Because you need to identify them. You need to advise business, because now, as where we sit as professionals is we are hired by organizations to be able to identify what a threat actor will be able to exploit and get into organization. So you are going to be tasked. Tell us what are the mitigations we are going to do. So that is why this is very important for you, and you really need to dive deep and understand implementing security controls to different applications, implementing security control even as just an awareness like what we are doing right now. How do we even deploy incident response? We have been attacked because we can't be 100% secure. Then how do we respond to those kinds of attack? And we don't need really to think like, okay, where do I start? Because most of the time, when you try to look at a cyber security career, it looks complicated as this. So you wonder, first of all, by the way, what certification do I do? We have 481 certifications that are listed by July this year. So this is where sometimes we are, and you ask, am I a beginner? Am I an intermediate? Am I an expert? So if I'm given a certain task, what kind of skills do I need? So in that case, we have organizations that have come together and they felt like let's build something that people can use as as a basis, what we call the baseline of compliance, the baseline of security assessments. There is somebody who doesn't want to go offensive. They would just want to go defensive. How do you identify them? So there are frameworks that we have been developed by different organizations, non-profitable organizations, and we are always asked to add into them. So hope, I don't know how you want the session to continue in terms of question and answers, or I can just finish, then questions will come. Hope. Hope. I hope I'm audible. Kindly, can someone confirm that they can be able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Actually, yes, you can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So I think maybe we can just go through the slides, then later on I'll just need an interaction session so that I can be able to answer your question. So in terms of compliance frameworks, and these are basically cybersecurity compliance framework, risk management framework. Something that I use daily is NIST, and NIST is just an international standard that has been provided for cybersecurity framework that just helps you. And this is how NIST looks like. It is available. You can just look for NIST. So with NIST is a really heavy document that cut across various controls. Let's say, for example, you have been tasked to go to this organization, you are doing an assessment, and one of the things that you need to check is policies. So it tells you, it gives you a description of, remember, as an assessor, these things you don't go sit and, let's say, for example, it's an interview and you ask somebody in IT, okay, today we are going to look at policy and procedures. And let me ask you, in terms of control context, develop, document, blah, blah, blah. No, these things needs to be at the back of your mind so that when you're doing an interview with the person you are doing an assessment with, you are having this question at the back of your mind. Then later on, now you come and say, okay, in terms of the discussion, was there an access control policy in place? So this NIST has another reference, which is identity access, access control. There are quite a number of them. So you just have to familiarize yourself with them. Then I added a bit of, this is what I customized myself, where you look at the data collection. Let's say you went to an organization, you ask them, how do we manage access to our Active Directory? Then you can just come and say this was collected through an interview, we tested, etc. What are the evidence? These are the evidence that was provided. What was the finding? What was the disposition, the threat, and all that as you go on. So you find that after access control, the other elements of account management, it's very extensive. It's very extensive. So this is how NIST look like, and it will really help you, even from your own organizations, for those who are working. This can really help you to just be able to understand where you are coming from. And you'll find that you have actually addressed quite a number of cybersecurity risk. And even before the assessment, you have been able to score quite high in terms of how you do your internal controls. And another one is ISO 27001. And this is usually for information security management systems, where we just look at the effectiveness of our internal controls. How effective is it? Not just we have a strong passwords in our privileged accounts. So the SMS will even go ahead and ask you, like an assessor, you need to test those passwords and check how are they encrypted, because it is one thing if you have passwords which are strong, but are they encrypted? So ISO will really help you to go deep and understand that. Then also we have the CIS controls, and CIS control has more than 20 controls, which is around more than 58 controls inside of it. So from these frameworks, you find that most of organization, I really don't even understand why guys tend to not understand where to start. These things are available in the internet for free. It's just for you to be able to find a way on how to make sure that this is just a checkbox. So I go check this particular control, is it exist? Make sure it exists. And for us risk professionals, we can be able to exploit this kind of resources so that we even go to organizations and conduct this particular risk. So it doesn't really start from scratch. You have go read them, understand them. It will really help you in terms of, something like OWASP. This is purely the top 10 web application security. It will tell you exactly how to approach it. And we have even YouTube channels. Go to YouTube channels, just understand how to use this particular framework. So I think things are really changing. The landscape is changing. That is why we become so very important to businesses. Understanding how the technology is moving, understanding the consumers of the technology, which are businesses. Each and every other day, if you look at the digital headlines as of April 2024, you look at the connectivity that is already in the internet, it's just humongous. And these are the things that we really need to, because the more we connect, the more riskier it gets. We have applications which are published every other day. We have APIs that are coming. So our role is very critical as we are moving into organization and advising them. We really need to understand the technology, the speed at which the technology is going, the technicality behind the technology that we're adopting, the IoTs, the cloud computing, and because all these applications are running on cloud. And those are the things that we really need to think and move very fast when it comes to adopting them. Because why does it matter? You look at the increase of the online presence. Every organization is thinking of a digital transformation journey. So organizations are also thinking of how do we build security in this journey? And that is where we come in, because as much as your skill is really good in identifying threats, auditing the cloud infrastructure, talk of infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, AWS, Azure, think of around those kind of skills, because that is where actually that's where currently the world is, and it will really help you. Look at cyber threats, the way they are escalating every other day. Things are really changing, and where we sit, we really need to be ahead of the threat actors. And every other day, read news. I will just show you how to go about that. Look at the financial implications, and organizations are really being penalized because of cyber threats. And we have a lot of compliance. We have a lot of regulations, GDPR, data protection, HIPAA, and all that, with very heavy fines when it comes to informations that have leaked online. Personal safety, data protection right now is purely on people, personal identifiable information. It doesn't matter how they throw their information outside there. We as organizations, we collect information as we are interacting with them, but we have a mandate by the Data Protection Act to protect the data subject information. So we really have a very big space for us to be able to exploit. We have a very extensive domain. We really need to know what to focus on so that we can be able to address these matters. And the trend is really changing. And from where you sit, you really need to have a look at how this will actually affect your career journey. Unsecured networks, ransomware, AI is there, phishing every other day. So how do you stay ahead of this technology? In terms of cloud, in terms of cyber chain attacks, and just try to look and ask yourself that these domains, they are too wide. You really need to focus on one domain and be good at that. Then you can be able to help the organization. Because even as you're mapping up your career journey in terms of cybersecurity, is you need to look at the technological advancement that is really happening, and ask yourself, if I go cloud, what certifications do I need to pick on cloud? What skills do I need to pick on cloud? Why? Because that is where look at the hiring trend, and it will really help you in terms of try to put up your house in order in terms of the career path to get. And cyber breaches happening every other day. So what is really going wrong? What is going wrong is people tend to go for really fancy solutions, but we lack the expertise to configure the solutions to be able to protect the threat actor exploiting them. We saw KQ, we saw eCitizen. eCitizen, I think if you look at the genesis of it, it was just a very simple SSL certificate that was not there. And this is something that any of you can be able to identify. If you have right tools with you, you can be able to do that at the comfort of your seat, that this particular website is not even safe. So in that case, I think we really need to think outside the box. We really need to challenge ourselves, because these threats keep on happening each and every other day. Look at Microsoft, look at, which other one? KPLC and all that. Things are really changing, and we are the one being trusted to do that. So in terms of identity access management, here I was just trying to look at, okay, fine, you are going to do an assessment. What are the things that you really need to look at? how are you going even to address that? So there is a video I usually look at. It's just going online. So I like watching cartoon, mostly animation. I don't know what is your take, but I liked this video, Tom and Jerry risk assessment. Risk assessment, Tom and Jerry. Yeah. Most of Tom and Jerry is usually just, so first is usually you need to know what you are looking for so that you can test a control around it. So in this case, there was an identification. There was an analysis of, how strong is that particular control. So it's a funny video, but it usually gets the message home that how do we tend to address our risk assessment. So it's like he has gone through it. First of all, identify the threats. Let's say, for example, how I started my journey was very simple. I had this OpenVerse. I don't know if you know OpenVerse is an open source vulnerability. So I decided first to check within my home lab. I scanned my network, then I find like, okay, fine. These are actually devices that are inside this network. So out of that, I looked at a certain port that was, yes, within the network, but it shows me that this particular port has a high risk. So I dive into it. So why is that port a high risk? What type of protocol is it using? What version that is it have? Then it gave me a CVE, this called, a score of that risk. So when I clicked on it, it actually took me to exploit DB. I know majority of you know exploit DB. So, and they actually explained how that particular port can be exploited. So I went ahead and tried to exploit the port, and it actually worked. So I asked myself, why do organizations actually struggle when there is an open source solution that can be able to scan your network, identify assets, and actually look for its vulnerability, which is usually the first place of any risk assessment, is usually just identification of assets within the network. So once you identify, you start, the cybersecurity kill chain of, recognizers. Recognizers, first of all, try to look at what is available, then try to look at threat, document them. Now, in this case, the difference between offensive and defensive is offensive, you will actually exploit the threat. But on defensive, you will just look at, okay, fine, we have this particular port. It has an issue. How are we going to protect this particular port? So in terms of documenting that risk, that is where the difference usually comes in. So your threat identification, you do your own assessment. In terms of assessment is, there is a way you will look at a certain control within the network. So this control, from a risk perspective, you say that the control is it effective or not effective. So if it is not effective, then that means its risk is high. So when you talk of qualitative assessment, that is basically how we do it. But when you talk of quantitative assessment, you will find organization will tell you to quantify what is the financial implication that the organization will be able to be exposed to in the events we have a DDoS. If it's a web service, let's say like KQ, if today they have an incident, it's affecting their e-commerce. So e-commerce, how many traffic do we get per second? How much do we get per minute? That is now how we do a quantitative risk assessment. Then again, prioritize. You need to tell the organization that this one needs to be done ASAP. This will need to wait. And if it needs to wait from a risk and assessment point of view, the business has to document for how long it needs to wait. If it is a certain network hardening that has to be done, then the business will tell you, fine, you have come into our network, you have find that our Active Directory is exploitable, passwords are not stored in a hashed way. So how long are you going to take to fix this particular type of issue? So the business will communicate to you and tell you, we are going to take this long. But that is now usually the issue to do with the business. How long you take to go to fix that particular issue, you define. But as the cybersecurity experts, we just come, do the assessment, tell you this is the problem, kindly fix it ASAP. Prioritize risk impact and the probability. This usually has to come out in your report. Just look at the mitigation strategies. The beauty about IT risk versus VAPT, IT risk can go ahead and tell the business that you have this particular application that is end of life. So these are actually the recommendation you can do. Some VAPT will give you the recommendation. Some will just tell you that this particular host is end of life. So we are always doing something called business advisory from our own experts. So as you think of going through your career journey, look at it from a point of you are looking for something that will advise the business. What impact are you going to bring into the table? If it is a code review that you want to focus on, you will be in a DevSecOps kind of a team, which is development and security. You will sit inside there. I finish my coding, I give to you, you do a test in terms of is this code even exploitable? Because we have bugs, which majority of you know the bug bounty programs, they come from them. So in that way, you need to look at not just a way to exploit, but even a way to advise businesses. Because majority of the business will look at, okay, fine, how quick can you be able to identify a problem? And how quick are you again going to give us a solution? Because if you have a problem, then either you're giving us a solution or we can think together and come up with a solution. So try to look at it, try to look at this discussion from the point of how will my career impact the business at the end of the day? How will my career impact the community at the end of the day? So out of that, we usually do a monitoring, which organizations will tend to look at all their risks that are available, and we monitor those risks in terms of when are they going to be fixed. Are they fixed? You have to do a retest on them, and etc. So in terms of data breaches and compliance statistics, majority of data breach, around 60% of them, is usually credentials. And I know during your program, you have been told how to crack a password, how to send a phishing link, how to do credential harvesting, how to always do some sort of social engineering. Because if you look at the majority of data breaches, they usually come from that particular point. So try to look at the breaches that are happening each and every day in the industry. Then look at your career, put it on a radar, and see in terms of these particular breaches, how can we be able to help organizations? Let's say, for example, it's 4 of us. myself and maybe other four of you who are good no, majority of us, of course, we are good in what we do, but we come together, we approach organizations. This is the skills that we've been able to get from Shuja. And for example, we want to perform a free vulnerability assessment for you and advise you. That is what you're doing to build your skills, because not every other time that you find that a skill has to be converted to a monetary element. Because when you're building your career, you really need to be in communities where it's a community. We share a lot of information. So when we do that, it comes to the element of just you start building your network, look at the breaches that are happening, look at the bug bounty programs, and that will really help you, because from this dashboard, we see that there is a lot of problems that are currently happening in businesses. Businesses are losing quite a huge amount of funds. And if you try to look at the kind of layoffs that have been happening, somebody will ask you, so we are looking into getting into a space where a lot of layoffs is happening. But if you drill down slowly by slowly, January 19,000, that is layoff happening from Tesla, Amazon, and all that, very few are actually touching InfoSec. Why? Because at the end of the day, we can automate the element of maybe a certain process within the business. We have the robotics process that will be able to do. But when it comes to element of information security, it is merging the two. You merge the technology and you merge the skill set. So are we, as even we are going towards a further revolution of AI, ask yourself, will my skills be replaced by AI? Or will I be able to complement both of them and still be in the business? But the beauty of this is majority of InfoSec guys have always maintained their position, and it's just because of the skills that you're building at the end of the day. How do you implement the risk mitigation strategies? Just look at your technical controls. Technical controls is, let's say, for example, firewalls. From where you sit, how do you understand firewall technology? How do you understand the encryption element? How do you understand the access control, vulnerability management? Do you just do the network scan? Then you will go to an organization, tell them that, wow, I have done a network scan for you guys and you have 60 vulnerabilities. So what? So guys will even go and tell you, fine, if my Active Directory is exposed to Windows patching, what other things can be able to be exploited? What am I trying to say? Build your technical understanding of networking. Build your technical understanding of business processes. So that moment, if you are really good in networking, you will tend to struggle a little bit with InfoSec. But if you're really good with networking, because InfoSec is usually about telecommunication, devices talking within the network. If today you are diving into, let's say, for example, you are doing your CEH, then after the CEH, it tells you that please, anything port 23, make sure that it's not. So you need to know at the back of your mind, what is the technology behind a telnet port? So build your technical controls. Why do we need to look at the organization? At the end of the day, we'll really need to work with these organizations. Make sure you familiarize with the industry standards that we are currently working with. You understand what we initially said, the frameworks. Those will really help you to be able to be absorbed by the organizations, because we are merging both. As a technical people nowadays, even when you do VAPT, soft skill is very important. How are you going to communicate your report to the business? So once you're done with that particular program, convert that technical knowledge into a soft skill, because you can't sit in a board meeting, or rather in a boardroom with a business unit, then you start talking technical jargons. You need to now find a way to have soft skills, which means you need to understand the organizational language. Incident response, it's something that you can also find to deal with. How can you help the organization to do like roundtable discussions, simulate ransomware attacks, simulate a malware, and all that? These things can actually be done at your level. In majority of certification, InfoSec certification, they always have the malware analysis. That malware analysis that you have been taught. Now, coming into the real world experience, first is to identify the malware. If it has actually happened and hit an organization, you are in a position to tell them, this is how we are going to go about it. And that is why you had to go through that particular program, so that you can now understand and advise the business properly. And how do we do about our reporting? And I'll just give you a simple example of a PT report, a pen test report. Let's say, for example, you are going to do a penetration test. So this is an example of a report of a pen test report. The organization you are coming from, the pen tester, you put your name, the document control. Document control is usually just the version. This is ideally what is actually happening in the market. So have it at the back of your mind what is expected of you, how to do report writing. Remember, you are a technical person, but here you are required to do a business report that will be consumed by whoever will meet in the business. So there is an executive summary. You need to tell them that I was tasked to perform a black box testing towards this organization because of this and this. That will be your summary. And this is what we said. This is qualitative. We are going to report to you in a qualitative way. So let's say, for example, the security posture. The scope was to exploit whatever kind of a technology you are given, servers, apps that may be exploited by malicious attackers. So these are the kind of things that if you scan a network, this has to come in a report format that is very understandable to the business. So you need to know how to put this kind of diagram so that the business can understand. You need to tell them the total number of vulnerabilities you got, which were high, and if they are high, so what impact does it have? When you talk of methodology, you have been given a task to perform. You need to show them how you're going to do it. What we said, like, cybersecurity kill chain. We shall identify, do information gathering. Remember, it's a black box. Vulnerability analysis, we exploit, we do post-exploitation, then we do house cleaning. There is nothing there like remediation, as we are only doing APT. It's a pen test. But when you add a vulnerability assessment, then that becomes something else. So this is just a type of a report. Tools that you're going to use. These are the things that you have actually gone to class and do. For majority of you who have done CH, you have done Nmap, you have done Metasploit framework, BAPSUIT, NICTO for web access, WP scan for those tools. You have to tell them what you're going to use. Now, this is how a simple report of a PTB. Remember, your report has to be very concise and communicate. No a lot of English, nothing. Is just very, very precise. The host was this one. This was the name of the host. We did an IP, the type of machine. This host contained this type of services. These are the operating system. These are the number of vulnerabilities we got, high, medium, low. And in terms of high, you need to tell them there was a backdoor execution. System vulnerable was this one. Then tell them the severity. So this is just basically an example of it I can share with you guys, so that if you are doing your day-to-day home labs, you try to put this kind of report. You even do screenshot of your assessments, so that it can be able to make sense to the person you are doing a job for. And that is why reporting becomes very key for us when we are doing these kinds of assessment. And just to roll back your mind in terms of emerging trends, what are you going to focus on? Focus on cloud security, because like we said, majority of businesses are going to cloud, and every other day you see organizations have been compromised from misconfiguration. Look at cabinets, look at Dockers. How are you going to do security on the cloud? Look at the SOC compliance. SOC 2 is usually for cloud infrastructure. Those, again, it tells you exactly where to start. And this thing, they're there. Try to Google. I think I even have a CIS one here. I will just show you one that looks like this one. This is CIS. It's available in the internet for free. What it does is the Center of Internet Security. It tells you when you're dealing with a Microsoft SQL server, what are the kind of the things that needs to be checked. So let's say, for example, you want to look at what in this case, login. How do they manage the SA of the DBA of the DB? So that is usually provided. So there are actually quite a number. Every check, password complexity, how are they doing auditing, and it even tells you where to go and check. Let's say we go to 76, 76, sorry. It tells you. It's here. It even gives you a script to run. So let's say, for example, you're doing a home lab. Install an SQL server, put a certain type of data inside the SQL server, pick this script, go test them. When you go to real life environment, it becomes very easy for you to familiarize. So if it is cloud environment, go to Azure, create an instance of a cloud environment, build your skills around it. If it is AI driven risk, because yeah, again, we have AI, but there are risks that are coming with AI. Right now with AI, you can actually write a malware within a simple script like ChatGPT, the way it gives you an output. You can actually do that. So what impact that has to organizations? So we need to find a way on how to protect organizations from these kinds of attack. IoT security, we need to find a way how to do to identify IoT. I know majority of you know things like Shodan, since all those kinds of browsers that you can be able to identify IoTs. So start from there, evolving regulations, what is really changing on the space, and how are you going to make sure you remember at the end of the day, put yourself at the center of your career. Look at what is happening in the industry. How are you improving yourself professionally through skills that will be able to match the kind of the problems that are outside there? If it is cloud, look at the skills look at the technology that are being embraced on cloud. Then look at certifications maybe around that, look at the skills around that, then merge all of them. So challenges that I have experienced when it comes to IT risk compliance, when I do VAPTs, code reviews and all that, I will guarantee you cyber threats keep on changing every other day. So what does that mean? You really need to make sure that you are on top of things. That means in terms of what we call CPEs, continuous professional educations. Go to YouTube, follow the right channels for your career. Look what is happening there. If it is a ransomware attack, like the one that happened to Microsoft this week, look at the nature of that type of attack. Then look at your organizational infrastructure. How can that attack be stopped? If it's a 0-day and all that, it really keeps you on toes. Regulatory compliance, again, keeps on changing every other day. So that means that even us from offensive side, we really need to know how to operate on this space. From data privacy, keeps on changing every other day. And the more people connect to the internet, the more exposed they are. We have banks that are purely adopting digital transformation, and we need to find a way how to help them, either through a service and the skills that we have. Third-party risk assessment, resource allocation, incident management becomes, these are just the challenges that we have been able to experience when it comes to keeping in tab with your personal career and all that. So I'll just give a simple walkthrough on how to do a CV, and there is one that I just opened. Let's say, for example, you want to do a CV for a GRC analyst, a pen test analyst, a cybersecurity analyst. So majority of us will start with, the CV type usually matters also, because as opposed to majority of the Kenyan market, because this was actually pulled from a certain class that I also attended on, how do we need to make ourselves outside there? The first thing that usually the HR looks at are qualification. Forget about the name and all that. They look at qualification. When they pick these CVs and they put them inside the analysis tools, there are things that they actually look at. So the first element is usually summary of your qualification. Who are you? What have you been able to do? Then areas of expertise. Always remember this bit, because when you're doing a search of a certain job, let's say, for example, you go for a GRC job. A GRC job, for example, let me just open one here. It's supposed to be Egypt. I'm just giving an example, not really a precise. Is one that I wanted us to have a look at. Okay, I can even, oh, this is salary scale. Glassdoor, Cairo, GRC. Also give you sites that you can visit for job search. And when it comes to job search, don't limit yourself for, you have gone to get a certification that is a global certification. So in this case, why only focus on jobs that are Kenyan jobs? You can even look for jobs that are outside the country. I'll just show you how to do that on your LinkedIn profile. Wow, where is this thing? There was one specific that I was looking for, GRC. Let me just count. GRC, this one. This is the one we opened. GRC analyst jobs in Egypt. Let's check this one. I just want to see how they do their JD. Then I also show you how you can customize that. Let's say, for example, we are looking for this particular job. So here they said, yeah, you will make an impact as OT cybersecurity consultant. And what do they want? They want, you see, what they usually say is your success. They tell you the certifications that you will have. Look at this. This is exactly what we've been talking about, the frameworks. You need to familiarize yourself with the frameworks. These certifications, ISO. So you see, majority of these jobs usually tend to look at your expertise, the areas of expertise. So make sure that it usually comes at the top of your CV. Then now the education will come. And when it comes to education, please also indicate the certification that you have been able to do. Even the small short courses you are doing, just indicate them so that at the end of the day, you are able to customize your CV based on that particular job. Go to job description, go to job requirement, then tailor them together with your CV if you have an expertise in that area. So put them together and shoot that particular application. So basically, that is just one of them. There's also another one I wanted us to look at. That was a short one. Another model, which is a long CV. This is a short one. So how different is it? More information, but the setup is usually like the same. Like the format looks the same. Summary of the qualifications, areas of expertise, put them there. I will share all this together with Hope, then you can share with the team as I'm finalizing. So that is just basically on the resume writing, and tailor the CV to the job role. Majority of us, you'll find that the same CV you've used to apply for a previous role, you apply for the second and the third. Just go through the job description, go through the requirements, then together even with ChatGPT, you can just copy them, then tell it to merge the role versus your CV, then put up something that is able to be presentable to the recruiter. So first of all, review them, then tailor your CV. Look at the professional summary. They will say maybe they want a NIST framework. You must familiarize with the NIST. You must familiarize with. So make sure that particular requirement is captured within your CV, so that when the ATS is scanning your CV, is able to pick those particular requirements. Then core skills, very important. Make sure you go for core skills. What are the things that you are doing day to day, or what are you good at? So let's say, for example, I'll just go for my CV, and will be a bit more practical. Okay. Make sure you identify. If this wants to restart, I really hope it doesn't. Okay. I think my browser has an issue, but make sure you look for that core skills. What is it that you picked from Cyber Shuja? That particular skill, please indicate it on your CV. It could be risk assessment, for example, compliance, audit, so that they be able to pick that particular area. Certification, this is just very high-end certification, but make sure all the certifications are mentioned. Professional experience, please indicate, and let it be quantitatively, so that somebody can see what was the impact. Let's say, for example, you are able to do a certain penetration test for a X company. You are able to identify 80% or rather 50% of vulnerabilities there. Somebody will be able to see. And what are these 80%? It was application, it was web, it was network security, etc. In terms of education, indicate them. Certification and trainings. Projects that you have been able to accomplish, make sure that you list all those projects that you have been able to do. Even if it's an Active Directory setup, just put it there. Then professional affiliations. What are these professional body? It could be SACA, Kenya Cyber Security Forensic Association, Cyber Shuja, all that. Put them there so that they can see how you're engaging every other day. Because one question you will not miss in a cybersecurity interview is, how do you keep yourself updated on the current trends that are happening? And what does that say? Be in the community. Technical skills. Don't get so much into your job, day-to-day job, and you forget to build your own personal skills, because the jobs can be very tiresome, and they can be very engaging, that you forget your personal development. Always make sure you focus on that. Soft skills, soft skills, soft skills. I will continue to emphasize on that, because we need to bring the server room in the boardroom. That's what they say. It's a cliche. You need to bring our our terminal to the boardroom and convert it to a language that is able to be understand. So lastly is clean and professional layout in terms of it could be your your CV. Just capture them to communicate. Don't put a lot of CV. Remember, the HR has almost 1,000 CVs to look at. So be very precise with what you've been able to achieve. So building a career in IT risk and compliance. But remember, IT and compliance, anyone who has done cybersecurity, anyone who has done audit, anyone who has done even a business function. When it comes to IT risk and compliance is when you're geared towards GRC, you don't really need to be that very good in hacking, but you just need to understand these frameworks, know how it is affecting the businesses, and know how you can be able to give advice to the business. It doesn't mean that you really have to be so much skilled in terms of technical for you to come into a GRC space. It is very different from an offensive space. So technical skills, you can continue to build on that, analytical skills, but communication skills is something that we really need to do in terms of our the technical team. So, leverage on your network. Networking. What Miseriani is doing with their cyber Shujaa is also awesome. But make sure after you guys have graduated to another, make that group exist. Keep on sharing the kind of experiences you're getting. We have so many cybersecurity forums, groups. The guys keep on updating each and every other day. What is happening? How are they tackling different issues? So make sure you are in a certain community within your space. LinkedIn, follow people who are close to your own network. CV, craft your CV, we have AI nowadays, we have people who are available online that can be able to help you do your CV writing. But today with AI, I'm sure you can be able to do quite a number. Continue, build your skills. Don't just let it rest at the point of graduation, at the point of getting a job. Continue each and every day. Look at what is happening in the space. Go to Udemy, go to Coursera, go to EC Council, go to YouTube, go to whatever kind of online education that you can be able to pick up and continue to build your skills. Then mentorship. And, this is one of the programs that you're here, but even those who are in professional journey, we also look for our own mentors, because every other day you need to be refueled in terms of, where are you, what are you doing, what project are you impacting, what community are you impacting. So make sure that you have a mentor who can be able to walk you through, and join, the ISACA group, the cybersecurity groups, and etc. So that brings me to the end of this session. I'm 11 minutes past the time. I'll be able to share with you the resume, the pen test report. I'll be able to share with you job sites that are available, but majority of you are already in internet space, and you can be able to get that. That being said, I think, hope I will stop there. But before I end this, I will just want to show how does a LinkedIn profile look like, because a lot of hiring is actually happening on LinkedIn, and your profile needs to actually speak what you're doing. And just case, for example, you'll see majority will put here their certifications of what they have been able to achieve. But for my case, what I'm just trying to sell is what I'm doing, what I can be able to do for you. And whichever way you want to put, but let it be professional. Put a professional photo, put proper names and what you are doing. In terms of your about, kindly indicate what you are doing, your core competence. Make sure that you do that. In terms of services, what service are you going to offer to any recruiter? The experience. What are the areas that you have worked with? Even if it is a project, just put it down. Your educations, make sure you capture them, what education that you have been going. It's very important, just a way to customize your CV. Certifications, make sure that those certifications, even if they're short courses, please update them so that they can be validated. People can see how you're putting yourself up into the space. And that being said, I think I will stop at that point. Thank you so much for listening. I will, if times allow, hope you can guide us on how to go about it. But thank you so much. Back to you, Hope. Hope, are you there? I think so. I can pick. I see.
Hello.
Okay, Hope, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I had lost power. But I'm back. Yeah, we can take 3 questions because of time and then we wrap up. Kimeto, go ahead.
Hi, Hope. Hi, Kevin. I hope I'm
Hi.
audible.
Hi, Kimeto.
Is it, Kevin? Thank you for the mentorship session. Really educative. I had a question around third-party risk management, Kevin. I'm not sure you
Yes.
didn't really quite touch on third-party risk management, but I think it's quite significant. It's just picking your mind, because
Yeah.
it's something that is growing, and I feel it's something that we might try and keep our house in order and everything, but we forget about the aspect of the third party now. A good case in point is the SolarWinds breach that happened a few years back. I just want to get your thoughts around third party risk management. And also, another one is if you are related to Saitoti, the late George Saitoti. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Kimeto, for that. For the first bit of third-party risk management, yes, this is something that is actually affecting quite a number of organizations. Why? Because first of all is we bring in services. We bring in a HP server from all the way from China, but we honestly don't know what is running in that HP server because we don't have a proper policy in place to manage third party. So to answer your question, there is still under NIST, there is a policy around how to go about third party. So the third parties is first of all have a policy, make sure that the policy is there. Then let's build control around the third parties. How do they do business with us? How do we sign SLAs, that's service level agreement, non-disclosure agreement, etc. Because if you go to, I think, if you check NIST 853 and NIST 837, both of them will have the element of third party. It has more than 23 controls to check at. So third party vendor assessment is usually very key. It is inside that framework. It will really guide you well on how to approach them. Don't know if that answers your question.
It does, Kevin.
Okay. Those frameworks, I will put all of them together and share with Hope. They can be able now share with the team so that they can learn more. In terms of the second question, I think my Jota Gen Z, I won't be able to answer that. But Saitoti is just my name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hatutakusalimia.
Yeah, I was just waiting for that exact to come, but yeah, so thank you. Any other question?
Yeah, Happy Del, go ahead. Happy Del? Okay, you can type on the Q&A if you're having a mic issue. There was a hand from a lady, Mercy. Mercy, are you still on the call?
It has already been asked. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, Kelvin, go ahead.
Me or we have another
No,
Kelvin. Okay. Okay.
yeah, there's another Kelvin with the hand up. Kelvin Mwangi. Yeah.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
I
Okay, Kevin, thanks Kevin for giving us this kind of extensive knowledge. Okay, I had a question regarding those frameworks. Is it a must to familiarize yourself in order to become a GRC expert? Is it a must that you familiarize yourself with all of them, or they are across the same or identical kind of procedures? Or the next question is okay, the next question is which recommendation do you give to maybe Lars, for Lars to become an expert in this area of GRC? Or do we have to, for you to become an expert, or an expert in a for a certain framework, maybe PCI DSS, maybe GDPR? Okay, for you to become an expert, is it a must that you to read all the publications that are there online, or which approach can someone follow in order to become an expert in this area? Thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin. For frameworks, they are tool of trades. When it comes to GRC, there is no shortcut around it, because it is basically, remember, GRC is governance, risk, and compliance. What we are looking at is to help organization being able to manage their compliance, manage their governance, and all this don't need to be, it's not a must you first of all familiarize and say that I have to be smart with all the frameworks. But why waste time building up something from scratch if you already have this framework that can help you to achieve the same goal that you want to achieve? So the better for you, because depending on what area do you want to look at, different frameworks looks at very different element of controls. So depending on which area you want to focus on, pick that particular framework, look at them, not to cram them, but to be able to understand them, so that when you go for an audit, you are able to have an interview with person without referencing the framework. So if you're looking at access control, you know what to ask on access control. Are there passwords? Are there signed documents that gives you are given before you're given access to the system? Then later on, you go and document your findings. So not really a must to know, but is have to know, because it will help you to have that job. Recommendation for the GRC, I will say, is like just the course I did the other day by, I will share the link, but also there are courses that can help you to be a proper GRC. It's just like InfoSec, and GRC is also aligned towards risk. So there are courses you can be able to do that. Hope just remind me, I'll share with you those links that will help you to make sure that you can audit a bank, you can audit an NGO, you can audit a startup, all in those frameworks. So that is just how I will respond to your question, Kelvin.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. So there are two comments on the Q&A. Valerie says, kindly share the slides you are using during the session. It has been a great one. Then we have Happydel, who says, if you could share an example of a crisis your organization has failed regarding IT risk, and how they successfully solved it. So we'll take this as the last question. Kelvin, go ahead.
Okay. So you want me to respond on a crisis that we have been able to resolve?
Yes.
Yeah. So when data protection came in handy, or let me say, uh, it's it's a ransomware. It's a ransomware, and uh, one of the site was compromised, and the issue was then how do we make sure that first of all it doesn't replicate to other sites, because this was a persistent threat that was in the network for 18 days. So we really need to figure out, and remember, from risk, you're only looking at the processes of incident response. So when you have an incident, the first thing needs to come at your mind: who are the responsible individuals within the organization to be able to, first of all, oversee the coming back of the business as business to continue as usual? Who are the team players who will sit inside the room to be able to remediate that issue that has happened? You have a ransomware has affected you. We have the IT team looking at extensively disconnecting the network, no shutting down of anything. We had to look at the network and see what type of a ransomware was it, what data was exfiltrated, because that happened, um, um, who was impacted. Then the IT risk team, together with legal, will sit down and say, how do we communicate? Because there is a compliance in place that says once you have an attack, you need to respond to ODBC within 72 hours. You need to communicate to your customers within 24 hours. So there is that element. So just to answer your question, that is how we approach that. And why was it easy for us? Because there was a documentation in place in the event you have a cyber attack, because you really need to do cyber drills so that you can be able to know how to respond. We know IT team is fixing the issue. We know legal team are looking at the legal implication. We know finance are also on our neck. The CFO will come and say, am I supposed to pay anything? No. We have risk team who is actually making sure that the remediation that have been set has been implemented, and what are the controls that have been implemented also to make sure that it doesn't happen. So basically, that is my experience. We had other worst experience happening, but I've responded to you in a way that you need to prepare yourself and the organizations in terms of how do we respond to a cyber threat. So, sorry, who was that again? I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, that was Happy Del on the chat. So I
Okay.
think that brings us to the end of our questions. I'll just give you a moment, Kelvin, to say if you have maybe closing remarks.
Wow, okay, that got me off guard. A closing remark is I will tell the team is um, start where you are. Don't really feel complicated. Just start where you are with a common goal of achieving a certain objective. Be persistent with what you do. Be consistent with what you do, because in this field, it is about the passion. If you put passion aside, then you'll be passed with other elements. So build on your discipline, build on the passion on the job, and make sure that you continue to build your skills in testing and making sure that you're building your own personal brand. So I think that will be my parting shot.
Okay. So thank you so much, Kelvin, for your time, for the mentorship, for covering IT risk and compliance in such a wide yet compact way. You really summarized a lot. And I feel like we went from introduction to experts in one session, which is really, really good. So thank you for that. I also hope you'll share the slides so that you can share them with the students. We'd really appreciate
Yes, I will.
that. Okay. Then there are those questions that I wasn't able to take because of time. So if Kelvin, you may provide a way the mentees can reach out to you, we would really appreciate.
Yeah, I'm just doing that right away, and it was in the first slide. So on LinkedIn, you can look for Kelvin Saitoti, and those are my telephone numbers. Reach out for any kind of mentorship, cybersecurity, any clarification you need. If you didn't get anything out of this, you can chat, you can call. I'm always willing to help.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
thank you everyone for your time. I'll share the slides once shared, and before you accuse me, I haven't shared last sessions. I will share them immediately. I got them within the week. So thank you everyone for your participation, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your week. Okay. Good night.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Thank
Thank
Good
you.
night
Thank
as
you.
well.
Good night.
Thank you so
good night.
much.
Wako sana. Nafanya kazi hiyo. Huku unajua. Tukiapa kidogo uone kama tumezoeana.